Hello, ESPC community members. This is Christian Buckley, Microsoft MVP and Regional Director over here at AvePoint. And I'm talking today with Eric Overfield, Microsoft MVP and Regional Director and the President of Pixel Mill. We're talking about remote first. So, hey, Eric, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. ESPC 21, the remote edition. I love it. Super cool.
The remote edition. That's you don't have to pay extra for that, folks. You just get that. So question one, let's jump in. Yes. Great topic here. Question one, what does remote first mean?
Yeah, so this one is totally interesting to me. For those of you who know me, I come back from the web design days, and we used to talk about mobile first in development. So this idea when you're developing a web page, you should develop it for mobile users first. Well, in this new work environment we find ourselves in, there's this new phrase that I've heard that I really latched on to, which is this idea of remote first. When you're building your digital workspace, when you're adding components to how your organization is going to work, I believe strongly you need to be looking at it from the remote user first. That how is this thing we're going to do? How's this process we're going to work with? We're going to build this great new conference room. It's going to have all this stuff. Okay, great. Remote first, though. How are the remote users going to interact with this? Because to me, this remote user component is not going away from most organizations. Effectively, every organization I'm dealing with, there's no desire to move away from, so at least they're not going to go 100% in office anytime soon. And anytime soon to me is years. I mean, not decades, but many, many years. So remote first
and be permanent for a lot of roles as well.
I personally would think that we're not going back. That's kind of my thing, but I try never say never. So I look at it, what can I say in the next 5 years? And I just don't think a lot of people are going to be working 5 days a week in the office, 4 weeks a month or whatever it is, anytime soon, if ever. And so we need to build the tools within our organization that empowers those remote workers, because there's going to be a lot more productivity they can gain, in my opinion, by being remote in some ways. But some of us are going to be in an office, and there's benefits to being in an office in some ways. And so we need to have our tools, our digital tool set, address that. And to me, it's remote first. How is your remote user going to be just as effective as your in-office experience employee? And that's going to be the best benefit you can get, in my opinion.
Well, question two, I think we're going to dig into this because Microsoft is talking a lot about the future of the hybrid workspace. I think that's partially covered by the remote first, concept. But with the increased focus on remote first and hybrid workplace, what are the major issues that organizations that are going to run into that they're going to need to manage?
Yeah, so quite a lot of things, and some things that are interesting to me, it's around the collaboration component. So there are a lot of places we can go with this, but what I really want to talk about is the conference room experience, where people are at a desk at an office, or people are at a desk at their home. They're going to be productive. Great. To me, the office experiences are really about that, where you're able to communicate with someone a little more easily because you see them in the hallway. You can just huddle in a conference room. And I am a more of a visual person. Like when I'm thinking, I want a whiteboard, I want to draw things out. It's hard just for me to envision complex spreadsheets and graphs and charts and concepts unless I can draw it out. Just to draw it out, I'm good. So having a conference room where people are able to meet is, I think, important, and it'll be very valuable for a lot of people. Okay, but what about the remote user? Now, pre-pandemic, when I was in a conference room of 5, 10, 15 people, and there was 1, 2, 5, 10 people on the phone, effectively, the people on the phone almost never talked. And I think you probably saw this too. And when I was on the phone in a big conference room, I get it. You can't read the room when you're not there in person. And it's hard to interrupt, and you kind of just start multitasking in ways because no one can see you, and it's not good and effective. Okay, we can't have that. And so to me, the hybrid work environment, it's going to happen. People are going to be in conference rooms more. We need to set up that kind of collaboration in a way that is just as effective for the remote user. And the remote user is equally responsible here in how this is set up. So to me, those tools that are interesting are things around Teams with the different views they're creating so that you can be on camera. So this is like rule number 1, on camera, like period. Just always have that on. But when you're in a conference room with your fellow workers and you're remote, have your camera on. It gets you in place. That camera better be on in the conference room and set up well. and the new experiences on Teams where you they feel like if they're in the conference room and they see you, you feel like you're part of it because they're seeing a good view of the remote attendees all lined up. You can then interact and work well within Teams. The different virtual whiteboards that are available and the Teams Hub whiteboards and ways to allow your remote users to be able to draw on that whiteboard is just as easy. The way that the remote users can read the room so they know when they can say, hey, I got to speak up, and people can see, oh, hey, you see that person who wants to talk, that happens in a conference room. You need to enable that. So one of the 100 ways I can think of right now of answering that question, to me, that's one of the really big ones for me, is the hybrid experience in that conference room, because the collaboration is so much of what this whole thing means, like, to me. So,
well, one of the difficulties that I have, again, historically, you look at pre-pandemic, and a lot of the things that we're doing in real time, the synchronous collaboration, the improvements have been great there. One of the problems that I always had was, and something that organizations need to think about carefully and manage, going forward, is for those people that are in the field, whether or not everybody gets back into the office.
Yeah.
When you have that asynchronous collaboration, to not forget about the people that aren't there locally. I mean, this is something I experienced working from home for the last decade. So my day-to-day didn't change with the pandemic, yet what has improved, because everybody else is working asynchronous hours, is that people were more cognizant of others' needs, of the fact, oh, we don't have everybody, they're in another time zone, we need to adjust our schedules so that we can get this input, and waiting for feedback to come in, where before I just constantly felt forgotten or bulldozed, the kind of opposite ends of that. So thinking about the changes to the culture of collaboration inside the organization and being more aware of who are my stakeholders, where are those stakeholders, and so that it's an inclusive process in that asynchronous collaboration.
Yeah. One that I found is also important around there is that kind of virtual water cooler, and encouraging an environment where, as people are starting to get into the office more and they're going to run into their colleagues that also like mountain biking or hiking, and hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh yeah, I wanted to go on this mountain biking thing. And oh, Dad, do you want to join me or something? To put that back into that Yammer or Teams community that you had. And I think encourage that as an organization to help people with their just, out of work life experiences as well. So there are some really interesting things that we're going to be tackling. There's some other more mundane ones about like trying to reserve offices or reserve conference room or reserve desks and things like that.
Super exciting topics. Yes.
Super exciting. That's the issue. They don't interest me, but they're very important. Like, I get it. And the hybrid workplace is going to have to encourage and enforce some of those rules and provide the tools for people so that it's easy and seamless. I do like the office experience. I think it's very important. It's sort of like the conference experience. I really want to be able to go back to an in-person conference. I'm looking forward to being back at ESPC, hopefully 2022, and we can all be in person. But then remote is also valuable as well. It saves on a lot of time on travel and stuff. So there's pluses and minuses to all of it, and we just want an environment that can really address that.
Yep. Well, for question number 3, quick and easy one. So focusing more on the technology itself. So for organizations who are struggling with remote and hybrid work, where do people start? So what are your recommendations for tools, apps, and services? Kind of where do you point people where they can get kind of more of the bang for their buck?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you the it's not the best answer in my opinion, and there's a reason why, but the problem is I actually believe this strongly. I have drinking this Kool-Aid. You need to start and fully embrace and understand Teams, as I really do call it this, and I believe it, the operating system, your digital workspace. You need to start there. You need that to be your foundation. You need to understand it, accept it, realize what that means. And just it's such a powerful tool that pulls the rest of your digital workspace together. And it's remote first to me. It follows along those lines. It's where all your tools are going to live. But even in office, we were using Teams when we had an office before all this stuff, and it already was becoming that operating system before we really knew it. It is absolutely there, and it's something you need to look into. That being said, of course, there's room for improvements for Teams. So the Teams mobile app for me is not always as consistent as I need it to be. It can be a little slow sometimes. I believe strongly that the engineers at Microsoft fully understand this. And when I've had my chats with them, they are some smart people and they're working on it hard. That's the kind of commitment I want, and they're making it. Of course, I wish they could move faster. So really embracing that as the hub of where things are going to start, I think is important. From there, there's all these tools you can add to it, and the fun things like Viva Connections, adding that on, the whole Viva platform actually, I think is really useful. But those are, there's 100 of those tangents. But accepting and really embracing Teams as the hub of it, that to me is like that step one. And not just, oh yeah, we use Teams. Everyone uses Teams. I get that. We all do. But how ingrained is it in the digital workspace? Is it just a communication tool, or is it really where you're focusing your efforts to bring everything together?
Well, this is again, I think it specifically ties back to like your information architecture and understanding
Oh
how
yeah.
Teams being used. And so creating like even having a more formal provisioning process so that you're
Yes.
setting up and you're managing the life cycle of Teams. I mean, there's a
Yep.
lot of work that to be done there
Yep.
besides
Yep.
just using Teams. It's great
Yep.
that it's growing so rapidly, it's being fully embraced, but
Yep.
now you need to do it well.
Correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might need to go back and clean up the mess you just created over the last 12 months. Microsoft is focusing on that as well. They're creating templating around this. Their Power Platform can really help with provisioning processes and governance processes as well. There's lots of third-party apps out there from all different feature sets, all different price ranges, all different approaches to looking at this. I believe this is going to be a very healthy ecosystem for a while organizations attempt to understand a actually very complex thing. In the SharePoint world where you and I both come from, information architecture was so important and it was this big thing. And like, Sue Hanley was just the person who I always went to understand that. In Teams, you still need the same idea of what are we doing here? What's the purpose of this? How are we going to do this? And what kind of conversations are we going to encourage? And where are we going to have many-to-many, one-to-many, private channels, private teams? Where can external people come in? Naming conventions, governance policies, backup retention, all sorts of very important conversations that need to occur that are just, oh, they're so much fun, of course. But it's something that we really need to think about and put effort in, and it follows to me that remote first mentality, because effectively Teams is available any place, anywhere. As long as you have an internet connection, you could be on vacation in Hawaii and still be plugged in. And maybe that's not good and bad for personal mental health, but at the same time, a lot of us need to be connected. We need to be able to just see that chat that comes in, and we want to be able to address it. And Teams is a great tool for that, in my opinion. It's the
About
tool.
about every other meeting now, I'm seeing somebody who joins in the office, then they switch it off in real time, switch over to their mobile while they're walking to their car,
Yeah.
then they're
Yeah.
in driving underway. And so, yeah, the flexibility there, it is evolving and changing the way that we're thinking about collaboration. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I'm not fully concerned. I'm not fully convinced yet, or like I don't know how to consider think, okay, so I'm at home, I'm on a Teams call, I need to get the office, so I switch to my phone and then I get into the office. How did I drive there though? I don't really want to encourage people to be Teams while driving, but at
Right.
the same time, it at least allows you to listen in or something, and you can just tell. And this has happened to me when I'm having weekend calls with partners and stuff, and they have to they need to move on a Friday afternoon or something, and they'll just go to listen only, and they just tell me. I don't even notice they switched, by the way, which I do love that. So yeah, I mean, there's the hybrid workplace is like that. There was a really good, I think it was the last Ignite, where Jared Spataro did a 20-minute the hybrid workplace. It's on YouTube now, I'm sure. So that'd be what, Ignite 2021, Jared Spataro, the hybrid, Microsoft 365, and
Yep.
and he demoed this stuff, and I do believe a lot of us are going that way. I've seen it personally, so I can say that yes, I've seen organizations do it. Yeah, absolutely. I believe where we're going.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Eric, for your
Yeah.
time today.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching, and of course, enjoy the rest of the ESPC conference.
All right. Thank you all. Bye.